Welcome to 3 Yards Per Carry, a podcast covering the Miami Dolphins and the NFL. Now, here's your hosts, Chris, Alf, and Simon.
I shared with Simon, I saw the first mock draft of the year because I don't know if you noticed, but the 49ers got pasted by the Kansas City Chiefs. It is, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs. But that gives us the 12th pick in the draft. And I saw one mock draft have the Miami Dolphins taking, drumroll, Bijan Robinson. And I can tell you I had one lonely sweat bead come off of my forehead and across my nose. And I got the vapors for like a very brief second. Very, very excited. This is exciting stuff.
Yeah. I prepare for that not to happen.
Well, that would suck. I think he's the best running back prospect I've seen since Ricky Williams, maybe. And I love Zeke. I'll tell you the guys I loved. I love Zeke. I love that Dalvin Cook. I love them much more than Fournette. I love Dalvin Cook more. It turns out that both are pretty good. You know what I mean? Dalvin Cook a little bit better. I liked a lot of running back prospects. Najee Harris I really liked, but Bijan Robinson, real deal, man. Like this is he's not like these guys, but he's like the Adrian Peterson type, like the signature player, the Saquon Barkley. 12th overall for a ready-made team makes sense to me. I don't think we have to waste too much time on this, but your thoughts on it?
It's not going to happen
on that first mock draft. Like that's not something that would happen. Sexy running back, 12th overall.
No, it's not going to happen, and I'll tell you why. Because this is a system. This is a system that focuses a little bit more on making running backs than on taking running backs that make the system.
Didn't Shanahan just trade for Christian McCaffrey?
Well, yeah, but I mean, this is mid-season. They're desperate, and they didn't trade a first. They didn't trade a first.
Oh, they traded a lot though. A 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5.
What they traded for is a guy who is already a proven vet and a proven fit in the system. And that's the key there. You're going to take a guy from college that hasn't proven himself in the NFL, but also, I mean, look at what's happening with Chase Edmonds right now, right? They got him high hopes. Raheem Mostert was kind of the afterthought acquisition at that position, right? And Chase Edmonds was high hopes, and he's an exciting playmaker and stuff like that. He is languishing right now because he's not taking to the system, and
he can't catch the ball. He has Kalen Balaj disease now.
Well, but it's a whole cascade of things because I think the catching the ball thing is in his head. Now he's in his head because of other issues and other struggles, and he does seem to be that kind of personality just to me, just the way he strikes me. But yeah, I mean, I tried to warn people about this.
Speaking to him a couple of times, he's like a really, really thoughtful guy. You know what I mean?
And those guys are the ones that get in their own head.
Yeah, he doesn't fit like the jock mode. You know what I mean? Like, super confident, like, screw you. You know what I mean? I'm a super athlete and you're just media. He's like a really thoughtful guy. Like he thinks about his answers. He wants conversation. Yeah. Like those are the guys that will torture themselves.
Yeah, those are the guys those are the guys that'll get stuck in their own head. But I think that I tried to warn people before the season about him trying to convert him to a new system after he's already been in the pros. And he's already kind of made his name in a different system, and now he's going to be trying to convert, and there's going to be bumps. And I'm not giving up. I'm not saying trade him away, do whatever. The season is long, and so he will have more opportunities. But think about the risk that is. It's double risk. It's not just risk of it's risky enough taking a college kid and then hoping that he can make his way in the NFL game, right? But it's also this layered on added risk of college kid or of college kid in the pro game, but also is he going to make it in this system? Because this system is very idiosyncratic as far as what it rewards in a running back, the traits that it rewards in a running back, and I don't know that they have they have it down to a fine science. So it's one thing to trade a second, or they trade like a second, third, fourth round pick
and a fifth
for Christian McCaffrey, who's, you know, a proven vet and proven in the system, like just 100% fit for this exact zone system. It's another thing to spend high on a running back coming out of the draft. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm saying the odds to me aren't likely, especially with Chris Greer as the general manager, because if Chris Greer is picking number 12 overall, then I know what Chris Greer has in mind. I already know what Chris Greer has in mind.
Cornerback.
He's looking at premium positions. He's looking at corner. He's looking at tackle. These are the positions that are hard to fill unless you invest, and you invest high, you know. And so and we're, you know, this Byron Jones thing, whatever happens this year, I just can't see it long term with him. And Xavier Howard is not exactly a spring chicken either. So I think that, by the way, Byron Jones is like 30, and the history of corners is not good at 30 years old. I don't know if anybody knows that. Like, it's more well advertised at how running backs have the short fuse, but corners no less, really. So they're going to need to reload at corner. They're going to need to continue to work on this offensive line at the tackle position. And I think that Chris Greer is just going too much against his nature to, and the thing is that Mike McDaniel isn't going to argue hard with him, because Mike McDaniel is, you know, comes from a background of finding Raheem Mostert from nowhere, or finding Elijah Campbell, or not Elijah Campbell,
Elijah Mitchell.
Speaking of Elijah Campbell, I was finding Elijah Mitchell in, like, what was it, the 5th round or something like that?
Yeah, by the way, Elijah Mitchell returns to practice this week.
Yeah.
And they just finished trading a pile of picks for Christian McCaffrey. Maybe a phone call is made?
Well, you know, that's something that, well, also, I mean, are the Browns going to listen about Kareem Hunt? You know, that's, you know, it's worth thinking about. But yeah, I think I just don't, you know, I'll die on the hill and be glad to be dead about it if it happens, but in the end, I just don't think the odds are very good on that happening. But yeah, I mean, we got more to talk about. The trade deadline is on Saturday, right? And the Dolphins.
Oh, it's on Tuesday, November 1st.
Is November 1st? Oh, my bad. It's on Tuesday. That's right. What did I say? Saturday? My brain is off today. Yeah. So I mean, there's going to be something's going to happen with the Dolphins.
I think so.
And trades are going to happen. And I don't know if it's going to be like the big headline thing. I know there are some unhappy situations out there that, you know, unhappy situations are where these things are born. Which is why, you know, I would have my eyes on, it's not for us. Chase Claypool is not for us. But that's an unhappy situation, and I would look for him to get moved.
Yeah, Chase Claypool is, you know, A1A in the bad body language Olympics. Like he.
Oh yeah.
Like 100%. You saw him, he didn't want to be on. He didn't want to be on the field yesterday.
Frustrated, and they're frustrated with him. And and I think that we have our own sort of unhappy. I think he's a good guy, and I think he's trying his best. But we have kind of our own unhappy situation in the way that it's showing up with Mike Gesicki. You know, I always say, like, everybody was all ready to trade Mike Gesicki because of his blocking, but in the end, it's not. You know, it's your strengths which get you fired. It's not your weaknesses. They account for his weaknesses as a blocker, right? And they're trying to bring him along, and frankly, he has improved. But it's, you know, they try to rely on him as a pass catching force, which is what's supposed to be his game. And then, you know, yes, I realize that his arms are being grabbed, but it's just sort of symbolic, you know, how the football just dunked off his face mask, you know, and I think that But there was more than that. He ran a route where he was looking up for the ball way too early and slowing up, and Tua lofted it, and so it looked like an overthrow, but it was because Gesicki just wasn't running the route right. And there's other plays in the game that he could have made, and he's not making those plays in the passing game. That's the kind of thing that gets you fired, is when you're not making good on your strengths. And so that's an unhappy situation that I would look out for. Chase Edmonds is possibly an unhappy situation, but I think he's doing his. I don't know. I get the feeling that he's doing his best. They're gonna give him some time. I don't know. Just a gut feel, but that doesn't mean they're gonna give him all kinds of snaps. I don't think Myles Gaskin is long for the roster, but I've said that for a number of years now.
You've been trying to kill him off for years.
Yeah, he is unkillable, but I think it might finally happen. But yeah, so we got some situations. I mean, we talked earlier about Jerry Jeudy in Denver. Getting him, reuniting him with Tua and Jalen Waddle, natural fit, I think, for what we would want to do here. He's been kind of a problem player from I think from an attitude standpoint, maybe. But getting him reunited with Tua Tagovailoa and Jalen Waddle under a guy like Mike McDaniel sounds appealing. That's exactly the sort of situation where you can try to rehab a guy that's been a problem somewhere else.
I had a guy tell me that Jerry Jeudy is one of these delusional confidence guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could have a conversation with him and he'll tell you without blinking that he's one of the 3 best wide receivers in the game, and he will not mention any of his contemporaries as better than him. Meaning no Jamar Chase, no Justin Jefferson, none of those guys. Jalen Waddle, none of those guys. Like he'll say, "Oh, Devonta Adams, Tyreek Hill, like those are the guys that are probably better than me."
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's a good thing or a bad thing or what? Because I hate to break it to Jerry Jeudy. He'll come here as the number 3 guy.
At that position, and the corner position, those are exactly the guys you want. Usually, is the guys that just have irrational confidence, and just completely irrational. But there's another unhappy situation brewing in Atlanta, where that they've spent back-to-back top 10 picks, number 4 overall on Kyle Pitts, number 8 overall on Drake London. And they don't use either of them because Arthur Smith just uses his running backs and such, and there's it's to hear the immense amount of bitching going on. I mean, you think of our own situation with Mike Gesicki and how not productive he is, right? Well, imagine you had a number 4 overall pick on a unicorn like Kyle Pitts, and he's got what does he have, like 170 yards or something like that this year?
Yeah, no touchdowns.
And no touchdowns. I mean, they're the unhappy situations are where these sorts of things can be born sometimes, and so I just wonder. What if the Dolphins call him up and they're like, "Hey, we'll give you Mike Gesicki and that San Francisco first round pick. What do you think?" And I'm just throwing shit on the wall right now. But I mean, that's look at those unhappy situations. I think that Miami could explore something headline-ish. With those unhappy situations, but otherwise, there will be probably a new offensive lineman, maybe a new defensive back, before the trade deadline. It's gonna be interesting over the next 7 days.
Yeah, the next few days for sure. One guy that I would keep my eye on is Stefan Gilmore. I don't know if you caught the news, but it was reported on Monday that the Frank Reich is saying, screw the season. Matt Ryan is done. like this was a terrible signing. I've never seen something like this before. And my guy is getting the job. Sam Ehlinger is getting the job.
Yeah, and I think I saw some people kind of imply that that Irsay might have had something to do with this, which. is weird to me. Jim Irsay is trying to boot Dan Snyder, so instead he shoots Matt Ryan in the head. Like, okay. But yeah, but let's face it. Also, I don't think the Matt Ryan thing is working.
No, it's not. They look bad. They look,
and he's eld.
Yeah, and Matt Ryan is at that age where he's putting up huge numbers, and you look at the scoreboard, and you're like, this scoreboard does not match those numbers.
Yep.
Which suggests that he's just fattening up those numbers. You know what I mean?
Yep. Exactly. I mean, they're three, but they had the key is expectations. They headed into the year with high expectations, and
it's gone tits up. Like that season has gone tits up.
Yeah, I mean it's 3-3-1. And I don't know.
You like my idea? You like my idea, by the way, Stefan Gilmore?
Yeah,
he has a year left. He has a year left on a terrible contract.
I think it's interesting, in as much as what I'd say about that is it's interesting because I do think that Mike McDaniel comes from a background like Chris Greer is famous for the young guys only thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Chris Greer
and SEC people
doesn't even want to talk about a guy if he's like 29 years old, right? Like Chris Greer, he doesn't. But Mike McDaniel comes from a background in San Francisco where they actually respect their elders, and they acquire veterans and they go after them and they play them, and so it's interesting to me. The idea of Stefan Gilmore is interesting because Mike McDaniel, I could see him, being about it. Whereas Chris Greer would be like, he's 32 years old, man. I sure we want to do this. And, but I could see Mike McDaniel actually saying, are you kidding? We had 3 corners in the last game and 2 of them were Justin Bethel and Noah Igbenogany.
And Stefan Gilmore gives you that insurance, you know what I mean? That Byron Jones insurance. And let's say that, by the grace of God, Byron Jones makes an appearance this season. Then he could kick into the slot and Gilmore stays outside. That's pretty damn good. Like that's a pretty good group.
Just lost a safety too. We just lost a safety in Brandon
and Byron
Jones
can play safety as well.
Byron Jones is a safety in his career, and he's played safety. And in fact, there was some secret recipe cooking going on. I know that there are visions of him revisiting a little bit of, let's just say, creative roles in the defense this year, not necessarily just being straight outside corner. Of course, all of it's derailed because he's not coming along healthy. But yeah, I think that it is an interesting idea, definitely. I think that everybody's looking at Carolina, of course, because there's a fire sale. But I think that there's one of the issues, though, and this was actually told to me straight up by from the inside, is one of the issues is there's a lot of teams right now that are, kind of ish, like 50-50, 500-ish, and so on. And they don't want to give up big pieces. But the teams never really want to give up big pieces. But yeah, so I mean, like you take Cleveland, for example, even Cleveland, they're at 2-5, right? And you'd think how they got to be close to a fire sale, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then they're like, yeah, but we get Deshaun Watson back. And they're having visions that they're gonna.
Yeah, but when he comes back, they're gonna be a top 10 pick, and they're gonna think, you know what? Maybe we should make this top 10 pick number 3 overall or something. You know what I mean?
Number 1 pick. That's exactly. But I think
so maybe Deshaun should be suspended the rest of the year.
Well, it's something to consider, but I think that and when he's allowed to play again, you would think that they're not just going to like have him go right in and start and play the entire games like right away from the get-go. You would think they'd want to pepper him in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, but they got, I mean, like for example, is his first game? Is his first eligible game? Is it the Buffalo game or is it the Tampa game? I don't know.
It's against you're talking about Watson, right? It's the Texan game. It's right after the Dolphin game.
Oh, it's the Texans game. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they got visions of, the Bengals aren't that great this year. The Texans, obviously, the Ravens are beatable. The Saints are beatable. The Commanders are beatable. The Steelers are beatable. They got visions. We're like, hey, we can go 6-0 to close out this year, and head right into the playoffs with Deshaun, with our premier quarterback. But I don't know. Maybe they go 2-6 against the Cincinnati Bengals this weekend. And then it's like, you know what? Forget it.
Yeah. Another guy would look at, the problem is maybe they look ahead, but they're notoriously cheap over there in Cincinnati. Problem is that they fancy themselves a contender. The Ravens are terrible. We just saw the Steelers. Bengals might win this division just in a walk. And then they're back in the Super Bowl conversation.
Well, we say the Ravens are terrible, but let's be fair. They're 4-3, just like we are.
Yeah. The only thing is that they find very creative ways to lose. You know what I mean? Actually, the Ravens are 4-3. I thought they lost yesterday.
No, they're 4-3, man. They're 4-3, and so are the Bengals.
Wow, they beat the Browns 23-20 yesterday.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, the Browns, listen, I mean, they got Jacoby, and they put up a fight. They put up more of a fight than I thought they would this year, the Browns.
Yeah.
They beat but it turns out they put up a fight against bad teams. They beat the Panthers, who are trying to be the worst team in the NFL. And then the Panthers smoked Tom Brady. Yeah, well, but right. that's like the game everybody's going to point back to when the Panthers don't get the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
But yeah, they beat the Panthers and they beat the Steelers, which are also the Steelers, by the way, we're getting back to this game. How they just have this weird knack for sticking around during the games. I mean, if you really look at how they played this year, it's like, okay, they got blown out once, but otherwise it's like, how does this team? They're not good. They're not good.
But you know what? But it's a weird thing.
Keep it close somehow.
Look, their offensive line is not good. But is Najee Harris a good football player? I think so.
Sure.
Chase Claypool a good football player?
Well, yes, but in a bad situation. So
it's George Pickens.
Oh yeah, he's good. Yeah.
Deontay Johnson. He's a good receiver.
He's all right.
Freiermuth is a hell of a tight end, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and then of course you turn it to the defensive side of the ball. Wow, like you got wow players there. You got Minkah Fitzpatrick, Cam Hayward, T.J. Watt. I like Devin Bush more than most. Their cornerbacks are terrible. Like those guys are just not good. They need an overhaul in the offseason. But they have enough talent.
And they've got coaching IQ and on the defensive side as well. I mean, by the way, where's Gerald Alexander? That question was answered. He's in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he's in Pittsburgh. He's in Pittsburgh. Not as an accredited coach. He was a holdover from the intern program, and I guess he is. What do they call those guys? Like it's like a graduate assistant. He's not an accredited coach, but he's a consultant. Is what they call it.
He's a consultant.
Yeah,
but so.
Getting back to the guy I wanted to talk about.
Brian Flores and Gerald Alexander in there. Yeah. And Mike Tomlin's already a fantastic defensive mind, and Terrell Austin is well respected. So I think it's that defensive IQ that kind of helps them stick around in some of these games.
But yeah, looking forward, a guy, and keep this in mind, listeners. I don't think we're going to acquire him because, like I said, the Bengals, they're talking Super Bowl. They're not going to do this. Okay, they're not going to trade this. Chidobe Awuzie, from when he was with the Cowboys, he was up and down with the Dallas Cowboys. They decided he is not worth extending on the 5th-year option. They let him walk. Bengals got him on a dime. He's turned a corner. The former second-round pick, he is legit. He is a man corner. He can play. It's his last year under contract next year, and he wants a pile of money, and Mike Brown doesn't like giving piles of money to football players. Okay? I would even monitor Joe Burrow going forward, to be honest with you, if we have an issue at quarterback. because Mike Brown is liable to be one of those guys that actually will not sign the franchise quarterback. Chidobe Awuzie is a guy I would watch. And if he was if the Bengals were going tits up, I would actually say, you know what? What do you guys say to, I don't know, a 3rd round pick for your cornerback? Because he's a guy, because he's only 27 years old. He could be here for 4 or 5 years. He could be a long-term, a long-term solution, I think, at cornerback. And
there's
sight unseen, I'm exploring him as a free agent in 2024.
Sure. Oh, as a free agent, yes. But see, I think there's got to be a 0.0 chance that the Bengals entertain, even if they were to lose like next week I think they're playing on Monday Night Football. Which is right before the deadline. They're playing against the Browns, I think.
Even if they were for next year, maybe, right?
Yeah, it's a conversation for the offseason for exactly the reasons you talk about. He wants a pile of money, and they're famously penny pinchers in Cincinnati. So yeah, but right now, hey, they were just in the Super Bowl last year. They're 4-3. They're fighting for the division crown right now.
They hit on a cheap option who's playing like a top 10 corner.
They are not going to say, if we're going to try to pry that piece out of them, we're going to have to give them like 2 first-round picks or some shit like that. I mean, it's ridiculous. There's no way. There's absolutely no. And this is what I mean by there's teams out there that are like 4-3, 3-4. Around that area, even some of the 2-5 ones that are like, no, we're not going to sell. We're not going to sell off an asset here. We're fighting. We're fighting. It's a long season. We're fighting for the so that's the thing that gets in the way of, kind of what otherwise could be kind of a headline move, a headline trade.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that it is going to be interesting. There's definitely going to be some offensive line, defensive back, movements for the Dolphins. But don't be surprised if, like, remember we talked about a long time ago how they were gonna the Dolphins were gonna use one of their first round picks on an unhappy player, and that unhappy player turned out to be Tyreek Hill, right? They've got this first round pick burning a hole in their pocket, and they're undefeated with Tua Tagovailoa as quarterback. They're 4-0 with Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback for the game, and they clearly get better results, and that fits in line with his history as a player. He's a winning player. They know damn well that they might have the best receiving tandem in the league.
Yes,
Raheem Mostert is looking as good as he ever has. And they know what kind of pieces they have on defense. Jalen Phillips has been showing out now, and they know overall what kind of pieces they have on that defense, right?
Yeah, they're buyers. I think they're buyers.
They could be thinking, you know what? Now's the push. Do it now. This is our year. Nobody in the NFL is that good, except for the Bills, but we beat them.
Yes.
Right? Like, just look across the board. Who's scary in the NFL right now? The Philadelphia Eagles, maybe. The Giants? You think they're that scary?
Yeah, no. And the Kansas City offense looks scary, but then they go play a game against the Colts, who are terrible and look like garbage, and then they play against the Bills and can't move the ball for an entire half.
Yeah, I mean, and the Chargers are certainly beatable. The Minnesota Vikings, we saw them up close. We should have won that game if Tua wasn't in the game. They're 5-1. They're one of the best teams in the NFL by record. They're 5-1 right now. The Buffalo Bills look like they might be the best team in the NFL, but we beat them.
Yeah,
and the Philadelphia Eagles are by record, they are the best team in the NFL, 6-0. But we played them, or we had joint practices with them, and we saw them up close.
Yeah,
we dominated those joint practices.
Yeah, they did.
And so, like, the Dolphins, who behind the scenes right now, how much have they got to be thinking, this is it? Like, this is in striking distance. We got a 4-0 quarterback. We got elite players. Like, heading into the game last night, this was even more, to me, this was even more incredible than the win or, the game itself or the feeling or whatever, is the way that they were talking about Miami's roster.
Mm-hmm.
In the pregame and such. We're 3-3, right?
Yeah.
Like heading into this game. But to hear them talk about the firepower that Miami has on both sides of the ball, how great of and stuff like that. Who's got to be these guys have got to be Steve Ross is finally back, so
I'm pretty sure
he can have a voice again.
I'm pretty sure I heard Chris Collinsworth have an orgasm on the air when he said the vibe in this building, with Tua at quarterback is different. Like, this is a track meet. They're going up and down the field.
And they all adore Mike McDaniel.
He's their favorite little hipster.
They know what kind of defensive pieces are on there. And by the way, the last 4 weeks, the defense, give them some credit for how the defense has played against the Steelers, against the Vikings, for a lot of the Jets game.
Yeah.
And the shit went really, but I think that, the offense, we know that the offense wasn't living up to their end of the bargain in those 3 games. And so in that situation, the defense finally breaks. But yeah, I think there's got to be people in that side of the building saying, or in the front office, or even in the owner's box, saying, look at the NFL. Why isn't this our year?
Yeah, absolutely.
We got a 4-0 quarterback. We got an elite level roster. Why isn't this our year?
Yeah, just go and get it. Just beat the teams you're going to be favored against, because it could get very favorable for you down the road. All right, to close out this trade deadline preview, we just have to do an extra show this week. Do they do something?
The deadline before the deadline, yes, they do. I think I would probably put the over under at 1.5 trades. And I think that they do something. I don't know whether it's going to be a headline move, just because now it's like trying to trade with people in fantasy football. It's no easier in the NFL, because the exact same things that make it hard in fantasy football.
I called the guy and I asked him, what do you say to Tua Tagovailoa? Because I have Aaron Rodgers as my quarterback, right?
Yeah.
And the guy says, okay, cool. Send me DeAndre Hopkins. I'm like, no, stay on earth with me here, okay?
Stay on earth with me. Yeah.
Okay. I'm asking you for a backup quarterback, all right? Because of course I have to undersell it, you know what I mean? Otherwise, I intend to start him. You're not going to take, one of my 3 best receivers, because I have Devonta Adams, Tyreek Hill, and DeAndre Hopkins. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I plan on playing them right into the championship. And the guy's like, no, I need Hopkins if you want Tua. And I'm like, okay.
I mean, it's incredible, isn't
it? Yeah, it's like, okay, I guess we can't make a deal here. You know what I mean?
Well, headline trades have that really big hurdle because of that, but also because of the way the NFL is this year, with like a lot of teams thinking that they might have a chance.
Yeah,
I'll tell you this: the Jets trading for James Robinson for a conditional 6th round pick does inspire anger.
I would say so.
Yeah, so I just want to throw that in there.
Yeah, but, I don't know how to say this, but the Jets' formula for success is getting everybody's second string or 3rd string quarterback, then running it 40 times and playing decent defense. Like, I'm not gonna completely take a dump on their team.
They are the Dave Wannstedt, Jay Fiedler Dolphins.
Yeah, like they avoid throwing the ball with Zach Wilson. I believe. What was the stat? They had a stat the other day. Zach Wilson he had like 32 attempts, and only 4 of them went past 10 yards.
Yeah.
So they basically try to, bore you to death, and they do play good defense. They have some nice players on the defense side of the ball. They lost another tackle. They're down 4 tackles from the start of the season. So I was getting ready to proclaim their season dead, and now they trade for James Robinson.
It's not supposed to proclaim them dead. They're 5-2 though, which is crazy.
It is crazy. What's crazier, the Giants 6-1 or the Jets 5-2?
You know what? They're both quite crazy, but I'm going to go with the Jets at 5-2. That's crazier to me.
Yeah, although they are getting a lot of backup quarterback luck. Like it's the stars are aligned. Although is it really luck when Russell Wilson can't play? Like
yeah, that's not backup. We're calling Russell Wilson a backup now.
Maybe, pretty much. When I remember yesterday when they announced Russell Wilson, he's a game time decision. Oh, he can't play against the Jets. And I was thinking to myself, damn, the Jets have just been handed a win. And I was thinking to myself, were they just handed a win? Or are things more difficult for them now?
I do got to say about the Giants, it's interesting because, Brian Daboll was obviously high on our list for being head coach of the Dolphins. And high on, and I say our, and I mean the Dolphins as well. He was high on the Dolphins list. Maybe even second only to Mike McDaniel. And I think that it's interesting. He's 6-1, and by goddamn, we should be 6-1 if not for the concussion that Tua took. I truly believe that. I think we'd be 6-1 right now, if not for that.
Yeah. Oh boy. It's I hate that trade for us. James Robinson for a conditional 6th round pick. Wow. All right. So you got
there's unhappy situations. That was an unhappy situation.
And the Jets exploited it, and we didn't.
Yeah, and we did not. But that doesn't mean that something won't happen. It's just the Jags for some reason weren't stingy with the asset. But we'll see if we can find somebody that is not stingy with the asset.
Well, all right. I think they'll do something. I think there might even be one splash. To quote Mike Tomlin. By the way, he said splash several times after the game last night. Mm-hmm. Mike Tomlin said, all credit to the Miami Dolphins. They made more splash plays than we did. So, yeah. So, yeah, that concludes our trade deadline preview show.
Thanks for listening to 3 Yards Per Carry. You can subscribe via iTunes, on Podbean, or your usual podcast provider.